We're waiting to hear from the state what the regulations are going to be for marijuana. Going to be legalized as far as growing it and selling it. You've said before that there's been interest from companies that are looking at Plattsburgh primarily, I'm guessing because of the low electric cost, and they will use a lot of power to grow marijuana. How many companies have contacted you and are interested in coming into Plattsburgh?
We've had 4 companies that have come to the city of Plattsburgh in earnest, that have come with previous experience, monetary backing, the know-how of how to grow in that industry, and a really clear direction for them that this is something that they want to do. And this is something that the city of Plattsburgh wants them to do in the city of Plattsburgh. I actually just took a tour of a facility recently of somebody who is preparing for the release of the regulations, which we should see late winter, early spring. There's a process for that, but at the end of the day, we are open for business. We've said we were open for business, and we're just waiting for the regulations to come out at this point.
Do you think there will be limits on the number of companies that potentially can set up shop?
We haven't heard of any limits at this point. If there are, you know, we'll advocate for the reduction of those limits. I haven't foreseen or heard of any discussion on, well, this community of this size will only get this amount of growers or grower licenses. We just don't see that yet. One thing is also facilitating and supporting retail locations, not only just grow and manufacture, but also retail locations, because again, that supports our sales tax growth and the revenue that the city can gain from that.
Do you think the city would look at limiting the number of retail shops so they're not on, you know, that they're not on every corner?
Yeah, no. I think at this point it's just like a liquor store, and that's similar to how I've heard, and my understanding is how they're going to treat licensing is similar to a liquor store, and liquor stores who can operate and can operate. It's a little bit more stringent with the licensing and how much you have to pay for the licenses. But at this point, we're not going to try to limit businesses. I don't think that would be appropriate.
Interested parties looking at existing locations or building on new space?
Actually, there's both. There's a couple in terms of the growers. There's people who are actively developing existing locations in preparation for the release of the regulations, and then there's other folks who have heard that the city of Plattsburgh just gained 240 plus acres of property in the city of Plattsburgh, and they are looking at helping develop the infrastructure for that location, as well as developing their own grow facilities in that location.
So this is the land off Reeves Lane that the city got from the town.
Correct.
So that could be one of the sites.
It could potentially be. There's a lot of work to build in infrastructure, water, sewer, electricity at that location, as well as prepare it for development. But at this point, there's just a lot of interested parties, which should be very exciting for the city of Plattsburgh.
Any idea how many jobs we may be talking?
Yeah, you know, and we actually compare this to the crypto mining and the consumption of electricity in one industry versus another industry. One of the folks that we talked to said anywhere between 25 to 35 jobs in a very small square footage, compared to something up at Reeves Lane, which would be a large grow facility, anywhere between 75 to 100 jobs.
You brought up cryptocurrency with the bit mining, and when we had that craze a few years ago, certainly it did drive up electric costs for customers, and there was the concern there that that could be the impact of having companies come in and use a lot of power, as it could drive up the cost. And there were safeguards put in place back then for cryptocurrency. Would there be similar safeguards for this?
And there are, and they would fall into the same high consumer industries as crypto miners would. But the benefit to us is the amount of electricity that's used versus the amount of jobs that are created. It's a much better prospect for the city of Plattsburgh. But again, going back to the high electric consumers, our ratepayers are protected just like they've been for the last several years through what's called a Rider A. And for large scale consumers, they've got to fall under that Rider A and pay for the overages themselves.
City is looking for a new police chief. You had selected a candidate. The council turned him down. And since then, have things changed? Why did you have to reopen the entire search?
Yeah, there was a number of issues with the search. Not only did the council not approve the recommended appointment, but going back to Clinton County Civil Service, they indicated that there was a number of those candidates that were mistakenly qualified based on an interpretation of New York State law. So even the candidates that came through, very highly skilled, very qualified candidates that would have done very well in the city of Plattsburgh, even those folks were not qualified given the laws in New York State. So back to the drawing board on that one. We were able to appoint a provisional chief who will be there until we get through the testing cycle. The testing cycle is going to take some time, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. So right now we have a provisional chief, very experienced.
Bud York, former Warren County Sheriff.
Warren County Sheriff, as well as a 30-year veteran of New York State Police, senior investigator and Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Internal Affairs in New York State Police. He's doing very well. I'm hearing nothing but positive things coming out of the department. And again, it's one of those industries I'm not an expert in, so it's nice to have somebody with a lot of skill, a lot of experience in that department to help through this transition.
And when do you think you could have a new chief hired?
Well, the ideal is that we, the test comes out in the middle of this month. It takes a couple months to score the exam. I think in between then and now, we'll be doing some interviews and rounds of interviews with some understanding and letting candidates know that we're not ready to hire yet. We got to see where the test comes, and then once we get the test results, then we'll make a final decision on an appointment.
And last time around, you thought it was important to go outside the city to look for new leadership. Why, do you still believe that?
100%. A lot of my experience and just being in the seat that I'm in and understanding the dynamics and the players and what we're seeing as a change in policing, I think it does the city best to find an outside candidate to come in and bring that experience with him or her to instill that culture in our police department, and I think that's crucial for us.
People driving by City Hall have probably done a double take past few weeks. They're seeing plywood up on the windows. Renovations are going on.
Yeah, we're not. We're open for business. We're not boarded up. It's not condemned. It looks horrible as more boards go up. But yeah, we're doing a number of City Hall renovations. Earlier this year, the council passed a $200 spending resolution to fix the steps. You walk up the steps, there's big cracks and holes in the steps, and it looks pretty bad. There's a new HVAC systems that are going into different offices. Again, high energy efficient systems rather than the radiating heat that's in there now. The windows are being replaced. That was a very long process for us to get to this point. Mayor Calnon obtained grants through Betty Little's office at the time, and then we combined those funds with IEP program funds, which are energy efficiency program funds, to fund the replacement of all of the windows in City Hall. We've got LED lights, full replacement of LED lights in City Hall. But again, these are all leading to more energy efficient City Hall. And
a timetable for when that'll be wrapped up?
The lights are done. We're going office by office with the heating systems. The windows, we're scheduled to have the windows done by mid-April or so. But yeah, it's an exciting time, and we'll probably look towards the end of the year for the steps to be replaced.
Chris Rosenquest, thank you as always. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.